shit.
Oh shit. What's up, man?
There he is. What's up, Freddy?
How's it going?
Hey, man, I'm doing good. Can't complain. How about you?
I can't complain either. Look at this. No longer that reporter kid, that reporter man.
I know.
Look
What
at
is
you.
this, dude? It's been a minute.
I know. You're a grown ass man now. You look as old as me.
We do look a bit similar. I gotta tell you, we made the whole father and son shtick back in the day, but now I can see why even more so.
Yeah, now it's brother shtick or big brother shtick. I mean, all my hair migrated south, so you still got that nice fade going. Me, it's disappearing quickly from me. But that's
Yeah.
father time. What are you gonna do?
I gotta get my fade readjusted, man. Don't give me all the credit I don't deserve here, but I will say I was in Vegas recently with my father, and
Hmm.
he's 52, and everybody thought he was my brother.
Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah, that's like my dad and I too. We're starting to look like brothers more than father and son anymore. He even started growing a beard like mine. I'm like, oh, look at Pops trying to be like the young one now. I like that. You know what I
There you
mean?
go. So
Yeah,
is your dad black?
yeah. He's
Nice.
black.
Your mom's white?
His name, mom's white. He's got the same name as me. He's also Fred, and I'm the third. So I'm Frederick Douglass Lockhart the third.
Hmm.
He's junior, but we're so ridiculously alike. It's incredible. You know what I mean? Like even when we hang, we're like more like friends now than father and son. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Was that something
Like
that
when
took
that
a long time for you guys?
it did in the way that it was like um, you know probably by the time I was like got into comedy and it was maybe 22 or 23. It had been away from home for a while. We like he became like I think the first time I did comedy on TV on Jimmy Kimmel, he was like so proud. Where my mom was just always so worried about me,
Hmm.
where he just became so proud that it became like our relationship growing up. He was super strict and that kind of thing, which now as an adult I'm grateful for.
Hmm.
But when I was a kid, I was like, "Hey man, can I cuss on here? By the way."
Yeah.
Okay, I was like, what a dick. This guy's always riding my ass and, being strict and all that. And now as an adult, I totally appreciate that because it's like, you see so many black men without fathers who have no discipline or who are caught up in bullshit because they didn't have that stern figure around or their mother had to play the stern figure.
Hmm.
So now my dad and I, it's like talking to my brother. It's like nigga this and nigga that. And he's sending me a fish he caught or I'm
Nice.
sending him, updates from. I've been taking kickboxing for a while now, and
Oh,
he's
really?
into that. Yeah, so yeah, we just bro out now, and it's that great place you can hit with your dad once you can have a beer with him. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Once
that's
you
true.
when yeah, once you get to that age, your dad's a cop, right?
He was,
You
yeah,
know,
not anymore.
okay, is he retired?
He still works in law enforcement. He's not out on the street, so
Okay,
he likes it better now. It was just so obviously high demand, high risk, and it just
right.
became. I think he had like an 8, 9 year career in it, and he just wanted something different.
That's great. I mean, glad he served and did that. This will blow your mind. I've been working to become an LAPD reserve cop
Really?
myself. Yeah, so that's what
Damn.
the kickboxing and swelling up and lifting and all that's been about.
So how long has
Is
this been going on with you?
6 months now. It's a long process. I got a hiccup in it because they do all this background check on you. And so what happened was, I had a outstanding credit card. That was the only fluke in my background. Like I've never been arrested. I've never had any possession charges.
Mm-hmm.
Never had any serious trouble with the law. And so I have a lot of cop friends, LAPD cop friends, and of all different races who have always kind of given me the inside dope about what really goes on. And I've always been fascinated with police work, and I'm also a writer now, so that's why I've been less visible and more kind of behind the scenes. And I'm writing a cop show, so I thought, what a great way to stay in shape, and then what a great way to kind of serve the city by becoming a cop. And what happens with a reserve cop is you do it 2 days a month, and that's it. Do patrols, but you're a full sworn police officer, gun,
2 days a
badge,
month.
car. Yeah, 2 days a month because I write on a show and that eats up 40 hours a week. So
Right.
but those 2 weekends a month, or that in 2 days of the month that I go out, I don't know. I think it's the comic in me. I love the action, the adrenaline, and so forth. And so it's not a popular time to be a cop right now, but I feel
Hmm.
like more people of color could stand to see someone who looks like them in that uniform and be less afraid. You know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
Like a lot of people want to talk, or f this or f that, but if you want an act change, then become it, and change it from within. And so that would be my goal, is to see less young black men die at the hands of each other and cops, and try to even use my comedy skills to bond with people, and make them have a good experience with a cop.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? It's yeah, most of my friends' minds are blown that I'm doing this, but
No, I
it's
think it's
always
really cool,
been,
man.
thanks, man. A lot of people do, and it's like, it's this day in today's barometer, so many people just have so much disdain for law enforcement, and it's understandable seeing all the videos that come out, but they also have to realize the good stuff doesn't make the news. The one that
Hmm.
helps deliver a baby, the one that helps, buys a kid a bed, and a, a Nintendo or something. Like, there's the world could use some good cops, and so that's why I figure, hey, I'll do it, and it'll help my writing tremendously. So hopefully by summer I'm in the academy, and finish by the end of the summer, and have that badge, and can say that I'm part of the LAPD. I mean, nobody would have ever thought that of me. you know,
Well, I think it's badass, man. I mean, one because it's LAPD, so obviously that's
yeah,
cool, like just on a base
right.
level. But in terms of like I guess a more serious level, what you're describing, I think is great because I wish more people would join police work for some sort of cause, especially cause that's close to them and that's good for people. Like I feel like a lot of cops, because my father's experienced a lot of them working with them. They want to exert power, and we all know this.
Right.
Were you ever thinking of being in law enforcement when you were young, before comedy?
Yeah, I always had a fascination with it. Both my parents were in the military, and so I always had a kind of a fascination, not in the gun or chasing aspect of it, but in the one to be able to do something, to be the cop you needed when you needed one. You know what I mean?
Right.
Not to hassle somebody for a broken tail light or expired tags, but when you see somebody, being hurt, or a woman being beat up by a man, or something like that, I've always been, some people like superheroes. I've always thought it would be really good to be a good cop, not a bully, tough guy, trying to flex on everybody cop, but one that smiles and talks to people, and
Hmm.
and that kind of thing. And just as a writer too, I think it would give me a more authentic experience in writing about cops, if I can really join the ranks and become one. The LAPD has always been, it's had its faults. Obviously, it was mired in controversy. Probably one of the most like illegitimate police departments in the world for a long time. But obviously, after the Rodney King thing and the Rampart thing, they really had to clean their act up. And now they have more minorities than white cops, and they do so much public outreach that they're the only major city using body cams constantly. And what the body cam does, it helps both the cop and the civilian by saying, hey, look, everything is now on camera. Everything. Everybody's got a camera. And you can try to twist this and say this is what, but we're going to show you everything from beginning to end. So anytime there's an officer involved shooting with the LAPD, they will show you from the radio call to the response to the aftermath, and they hide nothing, because that's, you can't afford to not be transparent this day and age. You have
Hmm.
to be.
And they make it
And
public, right?
yeah, they make it public.
Yeah.
It's always on their YouTube page. They put out every single one, and they show you exactly what happens. And it also gives you an appreciation for what they're walking into half the
Yeah.
time. I think most cops would just want to go home at night. They don't want to kill anyone. And when you say this, especially around, a lot of black people, they shudder at first, but then when I give them my explanation, it's like, look, we're all one here, regardless of how much our skin differs. If you want to see change and you want to get rid of bad cops, go. There's an old saying: if you can't beat them, join them. I
Hmm.
say, if you want to beat them, join them. You know what I mean?
Right.
Um, And so that now, even because sometimes people might recognize me from comedy or this or that, they might be less afraid. So many people are so afraid of that uniform and that badge. But I grew up watching reruns of cop shows, and I always, saw that LAPD badge as iconic, if you're not at the receiving end of it, you
Yeah.
know. But every time I see a black cop, I think that's really cool because I know he's catching a lot, or he or she is catching a lot of grief. But in the end, if you make it pretty simple, black people don't commit any more crime than white people. It's a socioeconomic thing. And
Hmm.
so, socioeconomically, why they happen to have more run ins is because taxpayers don't pay for schools in black neighborhoods, pay for after school programs and things that need to be done there is no alternative in some neighborhoods
Right.
other than getting into gang banging or selling drugs. And so,
Percentages will be higher based on these factors per se, right?
absolutely, lack of opportunity.
Yeah.
Of course, if you grew up in Beverly Hills, you're not going to have too many run-ins with the police, and you might be breaking way more laws than a kid who grew up in Compton.
Yeah.
But if you have a cop with a mindset that says, this color of people are this way and that way, I think, like you can understand, being both races, you really get to see both sides of the coin,
Oh
and
yeah.
experience the worst of racism, and sometimes even overhear it when people don't know what you are. Like if
Yeah.
if they don't happen to know you're half black and they start dropping the N word, I'll be like, whoa,
Right.
settle
They
down.
think they're talking to some Spanish guy.
Yeah,
I
like in
get
New
that.
York, yeah, in New York, I'm Puerto Rican, and that's that. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
they don't even understand being mixed. But yeah, that and writing have been my two passions as of late, and I've had to get in the shape of my life um, to get through the police academy offers. It's very very rigorous to get through it. So
Yeah.
I'm clean, sober, the whole thing, like. I mean, well, I drink wine, but that's about as much as I have anymore because you got to be in tip top shape because you won't see a fat LAPD cop. That's one thing. In New
Right.
York, you will. You'll see a lot of fat cops in New York, but not in LA. So, and then on top of that, we're going to bring the old podcast back, but in a new way. Hip hop's, we'll be talking old school hip hop, and like you and I were talking about Nas last week, and Chris got in on it, my boy.
Yeah.
So him and I got to chat, and we're like, man, we need to get this going again. So I think this year will be the year I'll get that going. And how ironic will it be, a cop hosting a hip hop show,
Yeah,
hip
that'd
hop
be so
cop?
cool. Hip hop cop. There you
Yeah,
go.
yeah, hip hop cop.
You know,
But
it's funny.
I
Go ahead.
go ahead. No, you go ahead, sir.
I was just gonna say it's funny because even thinking back to when we were doing the podcast, "What's Good" with Chris and Candace, that you had like the L.A. Murder Cop on, and I remember
Yeah.
that's his Twitter name, and I remember you were like so interested in that interview just to ask him questions, and we all were. But just thinking of that, like that was one of the highlight moments. So it does make sense that you'd be interested in law and stuff.
Yeah, he is one of my closest friends, and he did homicide for 30 years for LA. He saw people, like, he gave me a perspective of police I never quite understood, where his job was basically see a dead body, then go tell the family of that dead body that their loved one's not coming home, and then go try to find out who did it. And so when people want to call him a pig or say something like that, I'm like, well, step in his shoes and see how you can deal with that, because it's an amazing thing that somebody would even not volunteer. He was paid quite well, but that would do that we need people in our society who are willing to do that. And he saw a lot of dead bodies, and that can mess with someone's psyche, and it's why a lot of cops have suicides as well, because
Mm-hmm.
there's just so much crap that they see. But he and I have become such close friends over the years that he's introduced me to a bunch of other cops like himself who are really cool animal activists, outstanding people, non-political, just kind of like just going with the flow of life, and maintain that love of life, and don't look at citizens as a problem, rather somebody they want to help. You know what I mean?
Mm. Yeah, an actual community that they are uh, at least partially or mostly responsible for keeping safe. You know, I mean,
Yeah,
it's their
yeah,
that's what they got to do, and yeah, you know, I like that. That's good to hear from someone who sort of has experience on the inside, because as you said, LAPD has had a pretty crazy reputation. I think in farther parts of the world, like I think if someone who knows nothing about LA in Canada heard LAPD, they might still think some of those things. So it's good
yeah,
to think that
absolutely.
it's evolving.
Yeah, and it's completely turned around. And it's like you see all these shootings and things that are happening like all over the country. None of them are out of LAPD anymore. They're always out of some other either podunk town or Florida or somewhere like that, where it's
Mm-hmm.
like you just got some itchy trigger finger cop who was poorly trained and is afraid of young black men. And it's like I'm not. Matter of fact, I wouldn't go into the situation like that. You know, I would go into the situation going, hey, you know, what can we do to solve this for best for all parties? But you know, someone like Sal, who became, you know, murder cop, who was a lieutenant and a homicide detective in one of the cities that had the most murders. He worked during the '80s when crack epidemic was huge and there was just bodies dropping everywhere. But now LA's murder rate is very low compared to most major cities, and it's a community outreach thing. You know, in New York right now, they're having a lot of trouble with police because police are having trouble connecting with the citizens. The cost of living is going up. You know, the mayor doesn't seem to, I guess, and what I'm hearing doesn't seem to do much to aid the police
Mm-hmm.
and or to aid the citizens who can no longer afford to live in, you know, Manhattan or Queens, Bronx, Brooklyn. It's all been gentrified. So, you know, sadly, police respond to the areas that have the most money the quickest, and that's another thing too. Whatever area they put me in, I'm fine with, and I would hope to be in a more urban area, just so again they don't see, you know, the typical standard, you know, white mustachioed cop coming at them, who's just looking to kick some ass rather than somebody who came to talk to them, not at them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I think that's really really admirable, and I think it's going to be really interesting to see how it works out. I hope you keep us updated and in some way, or at least keep me updated if you don't post it publicly.
Yeah, I'm keeping it not a secret, but it's more like one of these things where when I finally get through it, I'm gonna just post a picture of myself in my uniform and go, "Here's what I've been up to." You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But yeah, you know, I've told my friends about it, and for the most part, they support it. A lot of first questions I get is why, because people have formed an opinion based on the videos that they've seen, and I'm just as disgusted by those videos too. But it's like I said, you know, if you want to beat them, join them and beat them from within, because it's too many people are afraid or have such disdain for police. But I've always thought that comics and police have a lot in common in that everybody thinks they know how to do it, but very few have the balls to try. You know,
Yes.
very few people have the balls to get up on a stage and be vulnerable, and very few people have the balls to go out and get in the shit and get involved in policing. So that's why I've gotten so many cop Twitter followers, you know, the captain of the LAPD, all of them, because they know that I'm somebody who likes to connect people rather than separate them. You know, I
Yeah.
don't care what someone's political belief is, religious belief. I'm not about that. I'm about, you know, let's find out what we have in common and not what we don't have in common. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially now because everybody's so into their opinion, and if you know, if you support Trump, then you're evil, and if you're against Trump, then you're not American. Like
Mm-hmm.
this is all just too. I think it's
It's bullshit.
everybody's gone off the deep end, yeah. And to see Ricky Gervais the other night, I haven't laughed that loud and that hard, and I don't know how long. It was like watching a real comedian come in and just shoot the place up, and it's funny to see both sides are claiming him. But the thing is, he's a progressive liberal, an atheist, and an animal lover. But he's a real comedian because he came out there and spoke truth to power. And I just that excited me as a comedian. I was like, oh, it was like watching Bill Burr in that famous Philadelphia set he did. like 12
Mm.
years ago. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but he roasted the entire crowd to the point where he won them over.
Where he got
You
booed at
know,
first?
he got booed at first and then
Yeah.
turned it around. And that's real comedy right there. And I know you've been doing it. How's that been going?
Man, I mean, I did it 2 times so far because
Yeah.
I ended up getting a fucking concussion right after, which sucked. I just recovered from it. Uh,
Oh no.
yeah, but the stand up, it went good. Like, I got this advice uh, in Vegas, and it's funny because it was actually on a podcast with another comedian. His name's Freddy too, Freddy Corey. I don't know if you've ever met him, but
Yeah, I've heard the name.
yeah, he's a cool guy, and he essentially told me that his first time he went and did stand up, he invited a bunch of friends, and he had a great set, and he
Hmm.
kept inviting his friends, and like on his fifth set, it was just strangers, and he did the same jokes, and he realized they weren't good.
Right, right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so he
Yeah, you
said,
got to go up in front of strangers.
right, so that was the advice he gave me, and for just being in Vegas and like this city that celebrates entertainment and talking to him and him framing it in that perspective, everything just clicked for me. So I went home and I showed up to a comedy club unannounced. I didn't even tell the host or anyone. And like a lot of the comics recognized me because I know them, and I was just like, yeah, just here to do my first set, and I did it for a small crowd, and that was it. So that's how I went in. So and it went good, you know.
That's great. And then how did you get the concussion? What happened? Somebody throw something at you?
Man, well, it was the other Iran. No, fucking honestly, I was just it was so stupid, man. I just hit my head on a door frame. It was really. I wish I had a cool story.
Oh
Uh,
man.
yeah, and it was one of those things I didn't expect it, and I've also never had a concussion, so I like didn't know really anything about it. So I thought I'd be all right, but the next few days I just started getting sick, dizzy, and I was like, it
Yeah.
lasted like 15 days.
Yeah, I got one in high school playing football, and it was like that. You blurry eyed, you vomit, the whole thing. Like
Hmm.
it makes you understand why all those NFL guys go nuts after a while. Like a few of
Yeah,
those things, and you can be, wacky. But I'm glad you went up, and that's the best advice. And I think I told you even on Twitter, it's not about being funny; it's about getting comfortable in front of strangers.
yeah,
And that's, in the beginning, so many people are worried about killing. It's like killing will come.
hmm,
Like, when I started to take kickboxing, I was so slow and I was clumsy and I felt like a fat guy in the class. I didn't know what I was doing, but it's like dancing. You have to do the steps slow, get comfortable, and then the power will come,
yeah,
and so same with comedy. It's just all about repetition. My first year, I think I got up 340 times, and then the next year something like 400 times, and then it's something that you just get the licks. You just keep getting them up anywhere and everywhere, whether it's a coffee shop or a TV show. You take whatever you can get,
yeah,
and then by the time, what happens is eventually those nerves, those that anxiety just goes away. It just becomes second nature to where if they could call me right now and go, come do a 30-minute set, I'd be like, all right, whatever.
hmm,
It would be because I've spent so much time, getting that out of the way and getting that comfort to come because, in the beginning, people just want to be funny. And it's, I always had this theory, you're as funny as you're ever going to be. You just have to learn to get comfortable being yourself in front of other people.
right,
And, with your experience in interviewing and podcasting and all that, that will come as an asset because you're not going to, like I always tell people, like, what's the worst that's going to happen? Even if they boo you, oh, well, it's like
hmm,
baseball. You get up and bat again,
yeah,
you just keep going again. My worst experience in comedy is probably like my third set as a paid regular where these three old guys from Scottsdale were sitting in the front row, and I made a mistake of getting stoned with a friend of mine right before my set, and he goes, they I couldn't connect with them because I was so scared and high, and I'm from Arizona, and I couldn't think of anything to connect with them, knowing they're from Arizona too. And they go, don't quit your day job. And
oh,
that was a wake up call for me. And it was like, hey, that was the worst thing that's ever happened. I've never had anybody throw anything at me. I've never had anybody boo me after that. Like, people's biggest fear, and Jerry Seinfeld said it in the documentary Comedian. He said that, more people are afraid of public speaking than death, which means more people would rather be in the casket at a funeral than giving the eulogy. And so when you think about that, it's like
Crazy.
that and why policing to me go hand in hand. People say they hate cops, but what are the most successful TV shows ever? Cops, The Wire,
That's
whatever it
true. Yeah.
is. People they have an opinion about it and they have a strong opinion about it, just like comedy. But
Hmm.
so few are willing to try. So few are willing to go. You know what? I'm going to get up there and I'm gonna give it a try. I'm gonna get on stage and I'm gonna make myself vulnerable and I may die, but you know what? You tried, and that's what counts. And after a while, that trying thing becomes second nature. And then you'll even get up there and go, I don't even know what I'm going to say. Like when Ari and I were all young, we would go and be like, give each other a topic just to go riff on that topic, and then you get comfortable kind of freestyling. And I always approach comedy too, like emceeing, like hip hop, like, I want to be the best, but I want to also make sure my rhymes are tight
Yeah.
and that they can hear me, understand me. I have a rhythm, I have a cadence, I have a flow, and all those things come eventually. What we do in the beginning is we tend to auction our jokes off. We go really fast,
Hmm.
but then you get comfortable and conversational and know when to hit high and hit low, and you'll see all the nuances in that as you keep up with it.
I love that. Yeah, that's true,
Yeah.
and that's something I noticed because I filmed my first two sets, and I'm gonna try to film all of them and at least audio record.
Hmm.
And I was just like, yeah, the first one, I was like, let's just hurry up and get these jokes out, and it's like that's not very funny, you know.
Right.
So it's
Right.
like you got to notice that.
And you got to let them land because, like, a lot of times people, you'll step on your own laughs. Where if you let something land, I used to make the mistake in the beginning of saying something funny, or you'll find out sometimes that something's funny that you didn't realize was funny.
Hmm.
You add something to it, and then by making notes or doing like you do, taking video, you'd be like, I just got a new joke out of that. There's little things like that you start to get little rewards and gems that the audience will tell you just as much as you can tell them.
Yeah.
But I'll never stop doing it stand up. I've not done it as much as I used to. I used to tour all over the country and the world,
Hmm.
but since becoming a writer, I find just as much satisfaction in it. But there's something so special about comedy where I can come up with something right now, go to the Comedy Store tonight and try it out. Whereas
Yeah.
a script, I have to rewrite it, have my agent read it, all that stuff, and that
Yeah.
satisfaction doesn't come right away. But comedy is even different than music. Whereas in music, they'll clap in the beginning, they'll clap in the whereas your approval every 10 seconds of me, laugh, clap,
Yeah.
like
Repeat.
it's yeah, exactly. And it's and while that you're working to a crescendo too, to the end. And so, if I'm listening to the Pixies sing, I'm gonna, sing along. I might bob my head, and I'm gonna roar at the end. But in between, I'm not gonna be like, oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's so. This is why it's such a strange art form. Comedy is the immediate satisfaction. It's just there's nothing like it. You know,
That instant feeling.
the instant gratification, especially in the world we live in today. People want things yesterday. You order something on Amazon, the guy's here an hour later with it, and it's like,
Yeah.
people like that. And comedy's going through a weird thing right now. There's definitely a comedy boom happening, but there's also and I'll probably get criticized for saying this, an over wokeness in it, where people have become more political crusaders than comedians.
Hmm.
Whereas when I started, we break balls. It doesn't matter whose balls, we break balls.
Yeah.
It doesn't. You don't want to punch down, obviously, but there's certain, like Louis C.K., who I'm not here to defend his actions, but him as a comedian was brilliant at that. He
For
could,
sure.
so seamlessly weave in and out of things that most of us would dare not talk about, or Dave Chappelle, or like we were talking about Ricky Gervais the other night.
Yeah.
Now, those men also have the luxury of being millionaires and can take the hit, but I feel to comedian is harder than it used to be. So many people will take umbrage with what you said and take it so seriously. You know what I mean?
Yeah, especially nowadays, people, it has sort of become a different climate.
Yeah, and it's the cancel culture, and it's on both sides of the political spectrum. Where how dare you say that? I want your house, I want your head. Now, if you're someone like Harvey Weinstein, you deserve it. You deserve to have your head chopped off, and you're a bad guy.
Hmm.
Even Louis C.K.'s fate is, he didn't. Great way to avoid killing your career is not beating off in front of women. But
Right.
at the same time, even my praising his comedy could be, cancel culture would have canceled me for that. Just praising his comedy, separating the person from, hey, Michael Jackson is obviously a pedophile, but damn, was Thriller good. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like
Right.
I can separate the two. Bill Cosby is a terrible person, but his comedy influenced my comedy, and
Hmm.
just his comedy, nothing else. So, I think we can't seem to separate the art from the artist anymore. And we take everybody so, their words are just so self-important. And then people love to call out other people as if they're not flawed. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And you see it on Twitter, and whether you're on Twitter, you're going to hear everybody's opinion, and on Instagram, you're going to see everybody's luxurious lifestyle they're not leading. It's become this world of people talking at each other, but not to each other. People who don't allow for exchange of ideas. Honestly, Joe Rogan is the last bastion where you can do that. The last place where you can go on and have extremely different views, and he'll give you a forum, and not to spout those views, but to challenge those views. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Have a
And
conversation.
yeah, and have a real conversation without anybody getting offended. Like, hey, tell me why you think this. Where are you coming from with that? And Bill Maher, I'll say, for his credit to his show, at least still offers up some bit of, people from both sides of the political spectrum, because I've always been politically moderate. And I think that's the hardest thing you can be, is moderate, because it says, I'm not going to choose a side until I hear all the facts.
Hmm.
And it's so easy to join a tribe or a gang and go, hey, I'm all in. Fuck those guys.
Yeah.
A cop who says, you know what, black people are all criminals. Yeah, I don't want that cop. A black person who says cops are all pigs. No, that's not. If we
Hmm.
talk like that, we'll never get anywhere.
All liberals are snowflakes. All Republicans are Nazis. It's all just
Yeah,
bullshit.
exactly. And it's like this extremism we've gone to and I don't blame it solely on Trump or anything like that. I blame it on that now that we all have a voice on the media. It's the I don't know if you've ever seen the movie from 1976, Network, but
I
they
haven't.
predicted this. It's one worth watching. They predicted this was coming. And basically, it's the tribalism of religion and politics in the world over now. And what happens is, in the 90s and the early 2000s, before the internet really took off, you would get your news on the evening news. You would hear it from one of three networks, and they'd be like, here's what happened today. They wouldn't offer any political lean, and they'd be like, make up your own decision, and
Hmm.
people would. And so, but once everybody got a voice, and every cable news outlet, like, I won't watch Fox or CNN. They're both just telling you what you want to hear.
Garbage.
Neither are telling you what you need to hear. And
No.
so I just look at the Associated Press, Reuters, and UPI, because they just go, here's what happened. Make your decision.
Hmm.
Instead of, oh, clickbait, or, so and so is a racist, somebody, somebody's sexist, and we're category of rapists and sexists who don't often belong there. Cosby belongs there. Even Louis C.K. probably belongs there. Michael Jackson belongs there. But it's like, at the same time, if Al Franken, for example, his career was ruined for
Hmm.
a silly picture he took, just some silly picture of him fake grabbing some girl's boobs while she was sleeping. And Like he was a great senator from Minnesota and a potential presidential nominee could have been, but as a result, they canceled him, and it was Democrats who canceled him. Really, they ate their own, as
Hmm.
Democrats tend to do, is get in a circular firing squad, and Republicans just seem to be able to lock step and get on the same message about everything.
Yeah, it's
And
interesting,
so
isn't it?
it really is. It's the dichotomy of the two parties, and like I said, I'm a moderate. I'm right in the middle, and it's not by anything other than going, hey, I want the whole scoop. I want just the facts. Like the guy used to say on Dragnet, Joe Friday. He goes, just the facts, man. And it's like just the facts. Leave the opinion out of it. But now every show on TV is an opinion. It's infotainment.
Hmm.
So if you ever watch Network, you'll see the movie Network. This guy basically starts to give his opinion, this newsman, and his extreme opinion. And that's what CNN and Fox News both do. They separate us here in America to make us pretty much hate each other when we really don't know that much about each other. Like with Ricky Gervais the other night, a lot of us out here in Hollywood think that way. A lot
Hmm.
of us out here in Hollywood are like, oh, get off your high horse. You've not been to the grocery store in 30 years. You know what I mean? Like you don't live the way most of us live. So like you were saying, if you're a Republican, you're a Nazi. If you're a Democrat, you're a snowflake. And it's like these are just labels we're putting on each other. And the country is more divided than I've ever seen in my lifetime. And I don't blame one thing. I blame many things, and it's just the tribalism of like Twitter. That I never ever talk negative on Twitter. I never talk politics. I never talk about anything that I'm not going to change anyone's political belief with a
Right.
tweet. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I'm not going to micromanage everything Trump does. I liked Obama, and I called balls and strikes on him. If he did something I didn't like, I didn't like it. If he did something I did like, I liked it. And the same with Trump. I'll even give him that benefit. I'll say, you know what? If he did something I like that. He recently made it a felony to commit animal cruelty, a federal
Hmm.
felony. I was like, thumbs up, right on. I'm for that. You
Yeah.
know, so what I think about him as a person, it's not relevant. I'm just some guy, and so I think too many people are alienating their families, their friends, and over what? A guy who's going to be here another few months or 4 years, who knows?
Hmm.
It doesn't affect people as directly as they think it does. All politics are local, and the most important thing you can do is get involved in local politics to better your own community.
Yeah.
To see that young black kids are getting fed breakfast, or to
Hmm.
see that young Latino kids are not being shunned, or able to learn English or teach their parents English even. And
Yeah.
so there's something that I think there's ebb and flow, and I really hope that after the dust settles, we can all kind of see that. Like I really feel like Ricky Gervais the other day was a turning point. I haven't seen that many Republicans and Democrats agree on anything other than how great he was that night, and being great in the fact that he was not just roasting them, but calling out hypocrisy,
Yeah.
and calling out hypocrisy on both sides, which both sides didn't quite pick up, but both sides are full of it. It's like if you know Trump does something that Obama did, the Trumpsters won't recognize that. Or if Obama, who sent more drone strikes than anybody, on the left, they won't recognize that. It's
Hmm.
like, you know, being president is not an easy job, I'm sure, and
Yeah.
you're going to piss off a lot of people doing it. But I try to, is at least as far as in comedy and online, not steer clear from it, but try to hear it out from both sides and try not to alienate people simply because of who they voted for. It doesn't automatically say, "Oh, you're a racist." It maybe you just want you like the economy. Maybe you just want to see your hometown do better.
Hmm.
And so that's why I always stress the importance of local elections. Those are the ones that will really affect you and your bottom line, immediately. Whereas national elections are just yeah, it can change the world, but at the same time, this whole the sky is falling thing, it's been going on for 20 years now. It's, hopefully it doesn't fall, but I've always liked to look on the brighter side of things, and I feel like, here in America, after September 11th happened, like that was the most united I'd ever seen America,
Hmm.
and that quickly waned.
Yeah.
But it's a shame that it takes tragedy to bring us together. Whereas, glimpses of hope and sometimes good things that go unnoticed get more attention, because the thing about news is it's a squeaky wheel gets the grease thing. There's an old like saying in the news business that blood leads, and that's true. If it's gory, that's the lead. You got to go
Hmm.
with that. A shootout. People want to see that. An old lady getting across the street unharmed. That's not news.
Yeah.
But the old lady getting across the street unharmed is far more common than the shootout.
Yeah.
And so, you know, the news, especially the 24-hour news cycle, would have people thinking that the world is on fire right now, when in fact, crime is as low as it's been in America since the 1950s. But
Yeah.
you wouldn't know that looking online. You'd think that, like New York is under siege, LA is under siege, Chicago's under siege. I mean, Chicago definitely could use some help, but it's, these are big city problems, and these kind of things happen in big cities, and for people in rural America, they don't quite understand that, and so they're willing to jump on the anti-city bandwagon.
Yeah.
And as a comedian who's played 49 states, I've been to all these places. And there's a lot in common and there's a lot different, but they're all our countrymen, which, you don't have to respect their political opinion or even like it, but it'd be nice to see this union be a union again, because right
Yeah.
now it's damn near like 1860 right now. It's like, people talking about civil war and this and that. And there's no physical civil war, but there's definitely a social civil war happening right
Yeah,
now.
I mean it is true, and even out where I'm at, Western Canada, you can feel it. The
Mhm.
weirdest time for me was when there started to be like political action to stop the oil pipelines, which would take away like our main source of income for this province, and
Right.
it became like a left versus right, and then that little Greta Thunberg girl.
Yeah. 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 The weather girl.
Yeah, she came to speak here in the midst of all that, and I went down there. I did a little like a video interviewing people out there or whatever, and
Mhm.
I didn't put any of my opinions in the video, but I was so uncomfortable because like I felt like I was in a messed up area somewhere in the U.S. where there was riots. Like it
Right.
was a
Right.
strange, almost social civil war type feeling.
And that's the thing too, and God bless her for whatever she's doing, but people are trying to make heroes out of so many people. Oh, here's our new leader to follow.
Yeah,
Now, I get it. She's an accomplished young woman who's really trying to get the message out there, and I don't like it when other people vilify the little girl, but she is, preaching a very strong message that maybe everybody can listen to, but they're still entitled to, have to understand that we're still an oil dependent nation at Canada and the U.S. and you have to get it from somewhere. And sometimes digging a pipeline or doing one of these things it's a local issue. And
mm,
when you have an outsider come to speak on a local issue, that expands the problem
yeah,
or brings light to it. Some might say, but I think that whether it's Alessandro Octavio Cortez, AOC,
mm-hmm.
on the left or on the far right, Trump, whoever. Like, there's all these cult figures now that people are ride or die with, and it's
Yeah,
just so strange to me that it didn't used to be that way. It didn't used to be. I wasn't ride or die with Obama. I was like, I like this, I don't like that. I like
mm.
this, I don't like
Just
that.
common sense.
Yeah, and it just now people have wagered their personal opinion to join the group think, and they're so afraid of what their group will think of them for individual thought, and
Yeah,
it's becoming rare, and it's rare to see. Like, sometimes you'll even see a black Republican and people will call him Uncle Tom, all sorts of names,
yeah,
and it's like, blacks are just is entitled to choose their political party as whites are.
Hmm.
I'm not a black Republican, but I wouldn't shame somebody for being one because whatever their background is or however they're voting is their business.
What are your thoughts on
And
Candace Owens?
like that, like she catches a lot, but she's also another cult figure that they've co-opted and use, I find, almost as a puppet, like in that she has a lot of very sharp, real strong views. But I think all too many times conservatives love a black conservative to go, look, see, we're not racist.
Hmm.
And then whereas the liberals just look at black people like we're all charity cases who need to be
Right.
saved.
Hmm.
And so when I see her, and she's super cute, that Candace Owens, so it's hard to,
Yeah.
she's
And I
super
think they like
cute.
that too. It's a very attractive black woman who's saying everything they're doing is okay.
Right, exactly. And so you become a puppet for them. And I won't be a puppet for any political party. I will not um, allow someone to go, hey, like you'll watch a political rally, and in the back, and this happens at both Democrat and Republican. Like at Trump's rallies, you'll see that same black dude always in the back.
Yeah.
He's got like long straight hair. I don't know what he's like, Aborigine or something, but he's at every rally, and he's prominently placed right there. And
The
then the
Trump
same with the
extras.
Democrat. Yeah, exactly. And then at a Democrat rally, you'll see like a guy in a turban. You'll see a guy like all these various like look how diverse we all are, and everybody's just trying to show how it's like a who's least racist kind of thing. And I think one of the gifts of being biracial is you just see through that silliness. You had nothing to
Yeah.
do with the color you were born. You had nothing to do with that. Why not hang out with people who are only your height or your weight?
Yeah.
These are all things you had nothing to do with. And for his part too, Obama was a cult figure. People adored him on the
Hmm.
left. And so now people just look to I can remember a time when the president was just the president. You didn't
Yeah.
really have a whole lot of, you didn't have hate or love. I even remember, I'm old enough to remember when Ronald Reagan was president. My parents didn't vote for him, but they didn't hate him. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? And I am very pro-American, but I'm also very the world.
Pro world. Yeah.
I've been a pleasure of visiting several countries and in France and Germany and Spain and Belgium and England. And I've I've found that I've found interesting people all over the world, really, truly neat, cool, kind people that far outweighed the assholes that I've met. The only asshole I met was in Germany, this lady in customs who goes, "Why are you here and what do you want?" I was like, "Oh, shit." And she was literally like, "Where are your papers?" And it was like, that was like my welcome to Germany. But after her, everybody in Germany was as nice as could be. She was just having a bad day and a mean lady working at the airport, no different than America or Canada.
Right.
People who work at the airport are generally not in a very good mood because they work at the fucking airport.
It's
So
true.
it's like, but I might be a blind optimist, but I think it's going to get better, and I think um, relationships with people here, with each other. Once these things seem to be fads, whether MySpace came and left, Facebook, came and is starting to lose popularity,
Hmm.
and even Twitter, for its part, will have to find some way of not just letting us just shit on strangers, just words being exchanged with people we've never met,
Yeah.
we know nothing about their lives, and just people just being hateful to each other.
There was one more thing I wanted to ask you, and I just want to talk to you about Los Angeles real quick. Who's the puppy, by the way? Who's this?
This is Fern. We rescued her when she was 9 months. She's a Jack Russell Chihuahua mix, and our last dog, who lived to be 16, passed away year and a half ago, and then we got Fernie shortly after, and she's my little baby.
Aw.
And then she's trying to give me kisses right now. Dad's on the phone. I got to do. Dad's on Skype, man. Say hi. Say
Shout
hi.
out Fernie. The
Yeah,
world needs to see this beautiful face. Look at
yeah.
this. Ah,
Look at Fern. She's just a noodle.
it's a
But
good dog.
yeah, she's a sweetheart. We rescued her. Her and her brother were taped in a box and left for dead. And if I ever find the motherfucker who did that, I'm going to go full Charlie Bronson on them, you know, and I'm not going to play games because how could you do that to a little creature like this? I mean, and then here's my other girl. You've seen Gertie before. Gertie.
There she is.
Yeah, Gertie, good girl. Gertie, you like fun? Yeah.
Aw.
Okay. All right.
Beautiful.
Sorry. What was your other topic?
No worries, man. Yeah, I just wanted to touch on Los Angeles real quick because we've been talking about sort of the evolution of the U.S., the climate of things. I know you're from Arizona. When did you move to L.A.?
Well, it starts off. It goes back to I was born in Texas in '79, and I was an Air Force brat, so I lived on an Air Force base from '79 to '83, and then we moved here to California and lived here from '83 to '87
Okay.
at Edwards Air Force Base. And my mom worked for NASA, where she used to treat astronauts who came back from space. And so then we moved to Arizona when I was 8, and I lived there and from 1988 until 2000. And then I moved out to LA when I was 20 years old and been out here ever since. So I've lived here longer than I've ever lived anywhere.
Wow.
And so it's definitely home to me. It's really crazy right now. There's a major homeless crisis going on, and like my wife and I own a house, and we have like there's an encampment set up outside, homeless encampments, and because the economy is doing well here with legal weed and everything, but it's also left a lot of people behind,
Hmm.
and wages haven't risen, but the cost of living has. And then also, with lack of mental health facilities, there's not a lot of places for people to go. And so, and also LA's perfect weather is a good place to go if you're going to be an urban camper, if you will.
Yeah.
But when I came out, my first apartment in Hollywood was $450 a month, and I think that apartment goes for 2,500 now.
Oh man, I
But
can imagine.
yeah, but people have their opinions about LA, but I love it. I did a lot of comedy in both New York and LA, and I'm just not a cold weather kind of guy.
Hmm.
So LA has always been, they got earthquakes here, but those don't even scare me anymore. So it's an interesting city. It's an enormous suburb, rather a city. And the difference between New York and LA is New York, they live on top of each other, so they're a lot more cultured with each other. And in LA, it's a very segregated city in a strange way, in that black folks live south of Olympic, Jewish folks live on Fairfax, and Mexicans and Armenians live in the valley where I live.
Mm.
And I fit right in, and and so but that's my only complaint, that it's not as cultured as New York, because New York, the great equalizer is the subway. You have to share the subway, so you get used to all these different languages and ethnicities and different types of people.
Hmm.
Um, but I really truly love LA, and the LA comedy scene, especially the Comedy Store, has been thriving as of late. And the reality about stand up is, like they probably not as much as it used to be, but living in LA, every comic's ultimate destination is going to be LA if they're going to look to break into TV and do specials and things like that.
Yeah.
But New York is a place to go to learn that comedy grind, because, I had an apartment there for a little bit and would go do it in the wintertime. And boy, is that, you can do 8 spots in a night, and there's a pretty strong comedy community there too.
That's crazy.
But out here, and there's nothing like LA. It's La La Land. It's showbiz. You'll be at the grocery store and see Leonardo DiCaprio. It's like, I mean, no, you won't see him, but you'll see somebody. He was at the Comedy Store recently. I wasn't there that night, but I would have liked to have met him.
Oh, that's
Um,
cool.
yeah, but it's like I've gotten to know and gotten to see a lot of my friends become famous. I mean, you remember when we had Leslie Jones on the podcast? She's an A-list celebrity now.
Yeah,
Like,
huge.
like it's crazy, and it's one of these businesses where I've been in it 20 years, and you could blow up overnight in 20 years.
Yeah.
It's just that kind of thing. But I don't know if you're thinking about relocating to a city, but my biased opinion would be LA, because I think both towns are probably your kind of town, but LA is it's a special place. It's unlike any other place, you know.
Yeah. No, I mean it seems that way, and like having listened to so many podcasts for like the last 8 years or so, I got to learn so much about it.
Hmm.
You know, and I have talked online about how I've been sort of turned off even to visiting because of all the crazy stuff you've been seeing going on right now, and because a lot of the criticisms towards the mayor of LA and this and that and the other. But at the end of the day, I know it's still a beautiful place, and as you said, it's the final destination for a lot of things. Like here, I mentioned the oil fields. A lot of people
Right.
come to move here to work on the oil fields, not because they want to live here, but because that's their line of work. So if I want to
Right.
be on TV, star, stage, and screen, where the hell am I gonna go?
Yeah, absolutely. I used to always tell people that you want to make steel, go live in Pittsburgh. You want to
Yeah,
make movies, come out here to LA. And the thing is, too, remember, like I said, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. The bad news makes the international headlines
yeah,
about our mayor and things like that. But, um, another thing that, too, that people are so over concerned about crime is everybody has these crime apps, Citizen and all that. And now you can get up to the minute updates of crime happening around you
oh wow.
that was always happening around you. You're just now aware of it, and
Right.
becoming aware of it will make you more scared of it. But there's lots of great places, and LA has, in the 20 years I've lived here, cleaned itself up, cleaned the air up, cleaned, not the traffic. The traffic is still a nightmare, but
Hmm.
it goes with it. And if you like podcasts and audiobooks, and you sit on the 405, you can go through a
Yeah,
book a week.
you can make a
So
podcast and listen to a podcast.
yeah, absolutely. I was even thinking about doing one live from the 405
Yeah.
when I go back to work. But it's I just think even for the weather and the beach, and you've got all the climates here, it's a fun place to be. It really is. Despite the bad stories, and right now New York has its fair share of anti-Semitism happening
Hmm.
and things like that. But those again are the semi-rare stories that make the international news. New York's still a great town, the
Hmm.
greatest city in the world, in my opinion. But this is my business, show business, and I love show business, and so LA is the entertainment capital of the world. So it's definitely the place to be. But whatever you decide, there's many ways to get here. Bill Burr didn't come out here until I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, something like that, and he was already well established.
Hmm.
And but you just get in mind what you want to do and set that plan. And I showed up out here with $500, and it was spent in a month. But I'm still here, and now I own a house, and these two little
Yeah,
nut dogs,
and you're
you know.
writing on the
So
show. Like
yeah, I'm writing on a show,
people
and
would kill to be in that position, man.
yeah, and I tried to not take that for granted too. A lot of
Yeah.
people are like, "Oh, I wish I wrote on a better show," or this or that. I'm lucky to be gainfully employed in a city that's hard to be employed in, and to have beautiful dogs, beautiful wife, and I like my life. I love my life. I if the 20-year-old me saw me now, he'd be like, "Bro, where's the mansion and the bitches and the helicopter?" But the 40-year-old me knows that that's not happiness. Happiness is being happy with yourself and loving yourself and taking good care of yourself and your friends and family.
Exactly, brother. I love that. And you
Yeah.
seem happy. I'm happy for you. And I'm definitely going to be hitting LA in 2020, so I'll definitely hit you up. Hopefully, you're in town. I'd love to say hi.
Well,
And
you let me know because I got plenty of room in the house for you. So I got a guest room waiting for you when you come
sweet,
out. So
man.
you scratch that off. You got a place to stay.
Hey, means a lot. Definitely takes a lot off my shoulders, so I appreciate it. And also,
Yeah.
yeah, just good to catch up, dude. Like it's been a while. And I always think about the What's Good podcast. I appreciate you guys giving me a chance back then. I know I was the kid and all, but we made it work and it was fun, man.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And now you're a grown ass man. I can't believe this, but this is great. So let's keep in touch. And definitely when you get out to LA, I'm going to put you up. And even by then, I might have my badge and take you on a ride along.
Oh shit, LAPD vlog exclusive.
Yeah, there we go.
All
All
right,
right,
my
my
man.
man.
Thank you so
Take,
much for your time, eh?
you got it, Cassius. I really appreciate it, man.
All right, brother. Take care.
All right, take care.